everyone, Hobbyist here, back at it again with another tutorial video. And this time, we're going to be talking Night of the Ninja. A game that is from 4 to 11 players and is probably the quickest social deduction game that I ever own. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Night of the Ninja is a social deduction game to where you are on two different sides of a ninja conflict. You are either going to be on the House of Lotus, or you're going to be on the House of Crane. Your goal inside of any particular round of Night of the Ninja is to assess who your teammates are and to eliminate the opposing house. This is the House of Lotus. The Lotus don't particularly have any sorts of powers, but one thing to know about a particular house inside of Night of the Ninja is that the houses are all ranked by numbers. As a general rule of thumb when it comes to Night of the Ninja, is that the lower your number is, the more important you are on that particular clan. Cranes are positioned in the exact same manner as the Lotus clan, to where the lower the number, the higher the rank that you are. Ronin here in the middle only ever comes into play whenever there's an odd number of players. But the Ronin is not on either the Lotus or the Crane side, and can take advantage of either side, as he only wins as long as he remains alive. Setting up your game of Night of the Ninja, the first thing that you gotta do is to assign everybody a house card. They can look at it as much or as little as they want, but the main thing is to keep what side you are on secret. Once all the house cards have been assigned, every single player is going to get a ninja standee that is going to represent if that player is alive or not. But on the back of the standees has some very important information. Unlike other social deduction games to where you have to close your eyes and everybody has special powers and does something, then everybody wakes up, everybody's eyes is totally open. But the key thing inside of Night of Ninja that differentiates it from any other social deduction game is that you have no idea who's on your team. In order to vouch for this, the first thing that happens inside of the phases is what we call the draft phase. And what's going to happen is that everybody is going to get 3 ninja cards in total. All of the ninja cards have special abilities and powers that you otherwise don't have access to. And they generally classify into cards that either give you information, cards that allow you to kill other players, or in order to manipulate the chaos that happens inside of a game. You're only ever going to have 3 cards in your hand, but to give you a sort of idea of what you're looking for in the draft phase and what you want to pick, I might as well go through each of the cards. So, from the moment that the draft is finished, we have the spy cards, which simply just let you look at another player's house card. The Mystic is the next set of cards that play. And what the Mystic does is that the Mystic allows you to look at the house card and a ninja card of another player. Are next, but the difference with the Tricksters is that every single Trickster inside of Night of the Ninja does something different. I'll explain more on those later. Blind Assassin is the next cards that come out next. What the Blind Assassin does is that it allows you to choose a player and just kill them without knowing who they are. The last card that gets played during the phases of Night of the Ninja is the Shinobi cards. And what they do is that they allow you to choose a player, and then you get to look at their house card. At that point, you decide for yourself whether that person is going to die or not. The last kind of cards that exist inside the realms of Night of the Ninja are called these black reveal cards. They basically are reactions in the case of certain scenarios happen, and they don't necessarily play during any point during the regular phases. So this first card, for example, is the Mastermind. It says, if you are still alive during the reveal phase, your house wins the round. If you are the Ronin, no houses win this round. So that's a very powerful card to turn the tide either in your favor or in your house's favor if you're otherwise losing. This is the Martyr. It's another reaction card. Martyr says, reveal this if a shinobi or blind assassin chooses to kill you. Gain an honor token. I'll explain what those mean in just a second. The last black reaction card that exists inside a Night of the Ninja is Mirror Monk. It says, reveal this if a shinobi or blind assassin chooses to kill you. Kill them instead. So it's basically turning the kills around onto somebody else. But now, let me kind of go into a bit more depth as far as how a particular round will look. When it comes to the Tricksters, here's what the first half of the Tricksters are capable of doing. Look at the house card of two players. You may secretly swap them. Then those two players may no longer look at their house cards. That is incredibly huge. It's hilarious to do against people because you have the information that they don't. And then you can kind of just psych them out and be like, yeah, I totally switched them when you didn't. Or you could say that I didn't switch them when you totally did. So you kind of can't trust what side that you're on at that point. So the Shapeshifter's a lot of fun. The Gravedigger is also incredibly powerful, especially if you chain it into the right combination of cards. Because the Gravedigger gets to look at two of the discarded ninja cards and pick one. You may play it immediately or keep it in front of you to use later. This is incredibly powerful, especially since if you can chain it right to where you got a bunch of information in the beginning of the game, then you are able to use the Gravedigger, get an early kill in, and take out a person based on the information that you get, and then maybe get another kill in with a shinobi. That's a very powerful play regardless of what team that you're on, because you have information, then you can kill. Then you get information, and then you can decide if you want to kill. So that's pretty good stuff. The third one that we have on the far right is that you get to look at another player's house card. Then you may reveal it if you want to. If you reveal it, pretty much for the rest of the game, that player's house card is going to be sitting face up. Especially if you time it right to where you get the number one Lotus, or you get the number one Crane, or even if you unveil the Ronin, because at that point, with all of that information being public, especially if it's on the house's side, you know that the opposite is going to go in for the kill because they're the highest ranking people on the team. If you get the Ronin exposed, then both sides can try to convince the Ronin to work alongside them. This is the second half of the Tricksters that exist inside of Night of the Ninja. The first one on the left we have is the Spirit Merchant, which allows you to look at another player's honor token or a house card. Then you may swap one honor token with them. Oftentimes this is going to be very useful to you, especially if you're trying to accumulate points, but it's also a good set of information if you didn't have the ability to get information before. The next one that you have is you have the Thief. The Thief has the ability to, first you have to reveal your house card. If you're a low ranking character, like a Lotus 4 or 5 or a Crane 4 or 5, this is a good card to have because you're pretty much safe to out yourself and not get killed. But the important thing that happens with the Thief is that you may take one honor token from a player who has more than you. If you have no honor tokens, then you can pretty much take from anybody else, which is huge because you're trying to get those points that you want. And then the last card is incredibly powerful, even though it comes at a cost of also revealing your house card. Once you reveal your house card, you can choose a player and kill them. The Mirror Monk and Martyrs, the black reaction cards that I mentioned earlier, do not work on the judge. So you could just totally disarm somebody of any of those two cards, of anybody who was bluffing as those cards. So it's a very powerful counter to have inside your arsenal. Just remember that if there's other tricksters going, then they're going to be doing stuff before you. Inside of Night of the Ninja, whenever you are doing the draft phase, everyone has 3 cards and only gonna ever pick 1 card and pass the rest of their hand to the player to the left. So ultimately, you're only ever going to get 2 ninja cards, 1 from what you picked and 1 from the leftovers of the player on your right. The remaining cards are simply just going to go inside the discard in the middle of the table. But whenever assassins or any other sort of cards are revealed, you can only ever play one of that kind. So for example, if we have 2 Shinobi cards inside of our hand, then we can only ever play one of them in order to use its power. If multiple people play the same kind of card during that point during the phase, then much like the ranking of importance inside the house cards, all of the cards are ranked 1 through 5. In which case, each player takes their turn in accordance to priority number. So this Trickster number 1 over here would go first, then number 4, then number 5, then number 6, in that order. And that's the same with any of the other cards, as there are 5 of each kind of card, with the only exception being the black reaction cards, which are only one of a kind. If through a blind assassin or a shinobi card that a player dies, and they also had a blind assassin card in front of them, then that player no longer gets to play their cards. So kills definitely prevent other players from getting their chance in, depending on the rank of the card that you either have selected or you ended up getting. If a player actually dies, then all that simply happens is that their ninja gets knocked down. And the important thing is that even though you're dead, you do not reveal your house card. Because there is still a chance for you to win, and there's still a chance for everybody to not know what role it is that you had inside of the At the very end of all the killing and massacres, at the end of the shinobi phase, when it is time to reveal cards, unless the card specifically told you to reveal your cards beforehand, all the players that are alive will then have the opportunity to unveil their house cards to determine who it is that won inside of Night of the Ninja. Inside of this particular example, we know that Lotus 4, the Ronin, Crane 2, and Crane 5 were the only survivors that came out on top. Aside from the fact that there is a Crane majority, you don't actually ever base the team that wins on the number of players there are. You actually base it on rank. For example, in this particular instance, because Crane 2 was the survivor, that was the only reason that House Crane won. Because the Ronin survived, the Ronin wins alongside the House of Crane. This particular example here, even though 4 members of House Crane survived and only 1 Lotus survived, because it is ranked Lotus number 1 and is the highest ranking member of the House of Lotus, House Lotus wins and beats out everybody else on House Crane, because they're the highest ranking character. This particular example, if this is the case for survivors, any ties in rank, you drop down to the next highest number. So in this example, we see that the House of Crane and Lotus is rank 1 survived, so that's a tie, as well as rank number 2s for both houses tie. But because Lotus rank 4 survived, and rank 5 was the survivor, rank 4 is the lower rank, causing House Lotus to win. It's a total tie amongst both houses, to where neither side won, then everybody is able to get honor tokens. Shurikens are honor tokens. These are going to be the point system that dictates how well the round in the game is going. While you are mostly playing alongside a particular team, whether it be with the Lotuses, whether it be with Crane, or if you're Ronin, your true goal inside of Night of the Ninja is to accumulate 10 honor token points. And as you can tell, they're rooted in 2, 3, or 4, and you'll always get them at random. Whenever you get these points, you're going to place them face down so that way nobody sees the numbers, as there are plenty of cards inside of Night of the Ninja that interact with these honor tokens. All that's simply left to explain inside of Night of the Ninja is that once you have completed a round, you've gone through all the phases from the spies, the mystics, the tricksters, the assassins, the shinobis, and then you reveal your cards and you get your points, all that simply happens is you reshuffle all the house cards, you reshuffle all of the ninja cards, you redeal, and you redraft, and then you keep going until one person gets to 10 points. The only way that you can capitalize and get those 10 points to win is you count them up at the end of each round. That way, players during a round can still take the opportunity to try to beat you out in points. So it becomes a social deduction game to where you're trying to find out who it is that's on your team during the game, but you're also ultimately playing for yourself. So as you're accumulating more points, you're going to realize that some players, even if they're on the same team as you, are not going to let you win because you have more points than everybody else, or you have more shurikens in general. So players are going to be a little bit more selfish as the games get closer and closer to somebody potentially getting 10 points. But otherwise, this is a social deduction game. You can choose to lie about what your house card is, you can lie about what cards are in your hand, and you can choose to not play certain cards, to bluff them as something else. If during the Mystic phase you decide not to play a Mystic card that's in your hand, because you want to bluff it as one of the black cards or something later, you have every opportunity to do so. Every card that you see, and every card that you interact with, you have the opportunity to unveil or keep secret the information that you have. You're more than welcome to do any of that. Ultimately, this is what Night of the Ninja encompasses. It encompasses backstabbing, it encompasses intel gathering, and kind of manipulating your way around by using the cards that are at your disposal. That's probably the biggest thing that makes it so different from any other social deduction game, is that you have cards that influence the way that people play. Sometimes, for certain rounds, you might only ever get information with how the draft works. So then in that case, it might be important for you to manipulate the intel that everybody else is getting to find out who is and who isn't on your team. Sometimes you might just be a hack and slash killing ninja, to where the only thing that you can do is just blindly kill people, because you have no information to get. I've had plenty of rounds where that's been the case. But I think that's the part that I love about it, is that there's a little bit of a level of strategy that's a little bit deeper than the One Night Ultimate series, and is not just correlated with trying to read facial expressions and who's bluffing and who's lying. There's definitely a strategy to it. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.